You ready for this? Texas Senate race. Things are heating up down there.
Yeah, it's getting pretty intense.
Listeners have been asking for a deep dive on this one, and we always deliver.
Absolutely. Got to give the people what they want.
So we're going to break down this debate, the only debate we've got, between Ted Cruz and Colin Allred.
Yep, just the one. And it was a doozy.
We've got great sources lined up for this one. The Texas Tribune, the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, and The Hill.
Can't get much better than that. Really good coverage.
Okay, so big picture first. Why is this election in Texas such a big deal for the whole country?
Well, this isn't just some local thing. All eyes are on Texas right now. Because this race, it could actually flip the Senate.
Whoa, really? That big of a deal?
Yep. If Cruz loses, it's a huge blow to the Republicans. Could totally shift the balance of power in the Senate.
Okay, so the stakes are super high. And this debate, hosted by WFAA-TV in Dallas, that was their one shot to,
Land a punch.
Exactly.
Well, they both came out swinging, that's for sure. Cruz really played to his base, tied himself to Trump, even called Allred a radical.
But didn't the Texas Tribune say Allred's known for being kind of a moderate? Bipartisan even?
Yeah, they pointed that out. Seems a little exaggerated, maybe.
Bit of a stretch.
Maybe. But it's a classic tactic. Gets the base fired up, especially in a close race. Cruz really hammered two things. Border security, obviously, always a big one in Texas.
Sure.
And Allred's connection to Kamala Harris.
Interesting. Trying to tie him to the Biden administration? Do you think that'll work?
It's a gamble. The Hill actually suggested Allred might be trying to distance himself a bit from Biden and Harris. They're not exactly popular in Texas right now.
That's putting it mildly.
Right. So trying to tie Allred to them, it could backfire on Cruz.
So while Cruz is playing the Trump card, what's Allred doing? How's he fighting back?
He's walking a tightrope, that's for sure, trying to energize the Democrats while also trying to win over some moderates, maybe even some Republicans who aren't thrilled with Cruz. So he's going after Cruz on some of his, shall we say, less popular moments.
Oh, you mean like the whole Cancun thing during Winter Storm?
Exactly. And January 6th. But the big one, abortion.
Ah, yes. The Texas Tribune made it pretty clear that abortion is a really tricky issue for Cruz right now, even in Texas.
It is. Because even though Texas has that reputation, the Tribune highlighted that a majority of Texans actually do support abortion rights, at least to some degree.
So that puts Cruz in a tough spot.
Totally. He wouldn't really give a straight answer about exceptions for rape or incest, just kept saying it should be up to the states.
Which, Texas already made its choice on that, right?
Exactly. And Allred jumped right on that. He really went after Cruz hard, talked about how the abortion ban hurts women, how it impacts their health care. The Tribune even quoted him saying, it's not pro-life to deny women care so long that they can't have children anymore. It's not pro-life to force a victim of rape to carry their rapist's baby.
Wow. Strong words.
Definitely. Allred's trying to make this real for people, connect with them on an emotional level.
Makes sense. But Cruz is sticking to his guns on social issues. The Hill mentioned that he's using transgender rights as a wedge issue.
Oh, absolutely. Trying to paint Allred as extreme, brought up his voting record, even went there with the boys playing girls sports argument, which, yeah, the Hill pointed out that's become a go-to tactic, hasn't it, to rally a certain segment of voters.
I'm sure. So how did Allred handle that? Did he try to defend his record?
He did, but he had to be careful with it. The Hill mentioned that Allred said directly he doesn't support boys playing girls sports.
Probably trying to avoid alienating those moderate voters.
Right, but then he circled back and said he's against any kind of discrimination. Tough needle to thread.
Really is. So speaking of the debate, Fort Worth Star-Telegram, they had some thoughts on who they thought won. Or, well...
if anybody won.
Right. What did they say?
They actually said neither candidate really landed a knockout blow.
Really? So kind of a draw.
Pretty much. The Star-Telegram said both Cruz and Allred played it safe, stuck to the talking points that appeal to their base.
But didn't they say this election's going to come down to the independents, the people in the middle?
Exactly. And they said the debate didn't really do much to move the needle for either guy with those voters.
So more like preaching to the choir than actually persuading anybody.
That's one way to put it. But even if a debate doesn't, totally shake things up overnight.
Still important for getting your message out there.
Right. It's a chance for the candidates to define themselves and define their opponent.
Control the narrative. Okay, so how do they each do with that? Let's start with Cruz. He's got that Trump endorsement, obviously. How big a deal was that in the debate?
Oh, he played that up for sure. Kept reminding everyone that Trump's in his corner.
Trying to fire up the Trump base, which, I mean, let's be real, that's a lot of people in Texas.
Huge part of the Republican Party here. So smart move for Cruz.
Did Allred have any big endorsements to counter that?
He did, actually. The Texas Tribune mentioned he's got Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger on his side.
Interesting. Both Republicans, right?
Yep. And both pretty vocal about, not being fans of Trump.
And to put it lightly.
Right. So that's a really interesting strategy for Allred, trying to appeal to Republicans who are, shall we say,
Over Trump?
maybe, or at least uncomfortable with the direction he's taking the party.
So both of them going for that broader appeal, trying to reach beyond just their base.
Absolutely. The Star-Telegram even said that for Allred, it's not just about winning over some Republicans, it's about...
Getting them to actually vote.
Exactly.
Turnout is going to be huge in this one.
Yeah. Huge. Oh, and speaking of the Star-Telegram, they picked up on something kind of funny.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
Allred couldn't resist, working in a few football references.
I mean, the guy was in the NFL. Can you blame him?
The Star-Telegram said he mentioned playing at Baylor, playing pro.
I'd milk that for all it's worth, too, if I were him.
Right. But here's the kicker. Cruz actually used Allred's football career against him.
Wait, what? How'd he swing that?
The Star-Telegram said he brought it up when they were talking about, you guessed it, transgender athletes.
Oh, wow. Talk about irony.
Right. Shows you how much of these debates is just theater.
Totally. It's about the optics.
Exactly.
Speaking of, the Texas Tribune also said that Cruz kept trying to link Allred to Kamala Harris.
Oh, yeah, he definitely pushed that, even though, like we said, Allred seems to be keeping his distance from the Biden administration.
Just trying to throw whatever sticks.
See what sticks. Exactly. The Tribune even quoted Cruz saying, Kamala Harris is Colin Allred. Their records are the same.
Ouch. Trying to make Allred seem too liberal for Texas.
Exactly. And, Allred would probably love to do the same thing, tie Cruz to
Trump.
Yeah. But he's got to be way more careful about it. Can't alienate those Trump voters that he might actually have a shot at winning over.
So he's threading a needle there.
Big time. Like, he criticizes things Cruz has done, especially, January 6th.
Right.
But he's very careful about how he talks about Trump directly sometimes. Doesn't talk about him at all.
Smart. So where does that leave us? Race is tight. Debate was something else. And the election is right around the corner. Big picture. What should people be watching for these last few weeks?
Yeah, so much writing on these next few weeks. Anyone's game right now. What should our listeners keep an eye on as we get closer and closer to Election Day?
Turnout.
Yeah.
It's going to come down to who shows up.
Right. Got to get those votes.
Cruz, Allred, they've both got to make sure their base is fired up, ready to vote, especially those independent voters, the ones who could swing it either way.
Yeah.
What issues do you think? What are they going to be paying attention to? What's going to get them to the polls?
Well, we talked about abortion, how it's actually, more complicated than it seems, even in Texas.
For sure.
So that's one to watch. How do they each handle that going forward, especially with women voters?
Yeah.
Who might not be too happy with Cruz's stance?
Right.
And then there's, the whole Biden administration angle.
Oh, right. Cruz trying to make Allred seem like he's just going to...
Rubber stamp for Biden. Yeah.
Even though, like we said, Allred's been keeping his distance.
Exactly. So are voters going to buy that? Or are they going to see through it, see it as just, politics as usual? That's the big question.
And let's not forget,
Well,
if Cruz loses, this has implications way beyond Texas.
oh, huge national implications, the balance of power in the Senate, control of Congress. It all hinges on this.
No pressure, Texas voters.
Right. But seriously, that's a lot of weight on their shoulders.
Do you think it'll make a difference,
Yeah.
having all this national attention?
It's hard to say. Some people, they get energized by it, this idea that, their vote really matters. Others, it's too much. They tune it out.
Can't say I blame them.
Right.
It is fascinating, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Politics.
Oh, absolutely. Never a dull moment.
And this race, Texas Senate race, this is like peak politics right here.
Textbook example. Two candidates, two totally different visions, fighting for every vote.
It's a microcosm of what we see across the country.
Exactly.
So, as we wrap up here, any final words of wisdom for our listeners, things they should be thinking about as they watch this all unfold?
Just pay attention. This race, it matters. Not just for Texas, for everyone. So, read up on the issues, talk to your friends and family, and then get out there and vote. Make your voice heard.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And on that note, That's a wrap on our deep dive into the Texas Senate race. Listeners, we hope you're all caught up. Stay informed and stay tuned. This race, it's far from over.